came up here, we had Mondays off and I went to the theater at Wheaton to watch a movie. And sitting in the movie theater, I noticed through my peripherals, police officers who came in and came down the aisle and went down and came back up. And then after a while, another person came and whispered in my ear and said, "Can you step out of the theater for me?" And so I looked over and was a police officer. So I did, and I came up and we stood up, came up the aisle, went outside the festival, and then outside the entrance where I believe this was a while back, probably 88, 89. Step outside, and then he whispered into a microphone and said, "Okay, you can come by." And not knowing what was going on, and I noticed a car that went by some distance away. And then he said, "Okay, we're good. That's not him." And so then he turned to me and said, "Well, I know you have a lot of questions about why I brought you out here, but somebody just stole something from from a jewelry store. And the theater manager thought it was you, because you were the only black person who went in here at this time of the day. And he said, if you have any problems with what happened, the lady just said it wasn't you, here's my card." Then the theater manager came and he gave me a bunch of coupon tickets and said, "You can, come for free, but I thought you looked like what they described," and that sort of thing. If you know anything about me, if I go into a store, whether it's a slight from the manager or anybody, I will never spend my money back there. So I've never been to that theater. Unfortunately for Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman, I will never watch that movie again. But that incident, although it was real for me, it was not until later that years later, that I started to think about what could have happened. Because I watch a lot of crime dramas with Sabrina. So when you hear of eyewitness testimony, if she had thought, "Yeah, that looks like him," where would I be? And that later on really scared me. But I also recall a situation in North Carolina where the state secretary of education, when we first met at Ardmore Baptist Church, we spoke for a couple of minutes and then he said, "What, you speak English as well as I do?" And it's like, well, I'm from West Africa, but the country I'm from, we speak English as the first language. So it's nothing new. There's no reason to think. But I understood he was coming from a place of ignorance, that he didn't really understand that there are African countries where they do speak English as well. I'll piggyback a little bit to the first question about where I'm from, and I circle back now because having met, and not out of omission, but most of you know that I'm the husband of Penn and Clarke, and Brandon and Sabrina are our kids. But having met her and her family in the tradition they have also from Africa, and maybe even more stately because her dad was a general in the military, you understood the pride that you grew up with. And so I may have been a little bit more dismissive to things happening around me and just really walking around with more pride in myself than thinking less of the slights from people, all the things that people say. Because again, what I give, I really don't expect it to come back. I know she nudges me all the time when I say hello to people, strangers in the street, because I don't really expect you to say hi, but if we meet cases, and at that point, it's just automatic for me to say, "Hello, how are you?" And whether you say it back or not really doesn't matter to me.
Thank you. So with that in mind, what have you had to learn or unlearn around issues of social justice?
So then the beauty of growing up here meant a couple of things. When President Obama was elected, I remember how many Georgians, and we lived in Georgia at the time, how many Georgians were still waiting for the polls and maybe turn away from, not maybe, but turn away from the polls and that sort of thing. But I remember the little American history I knew, because I came here in December of '84, coming from a very tropical country to the United States, landing in New York City with just a sweater in December, was not the smartest thing, but now I honestly do not own a winter coat. It doesn't bother me anymore, and so I really love the cold. But I remember historically when presidents are elected, the next Sunday at church you hear people talking about God bless our country, God pray for our country and our president, and we move on from there. But I remember my pastor at Smyrna First, who I just felt lit into our new president in a way, a manner in which I just did not expect. And so I wrote him a diatribe in which I tried to tell him, I'm going to step away from this church because right now you don't represent what I feel is necessary for me in my Christian journey to move forward. I tried to explain to him that, and his thing was, he had written this a couple of Sundays ago, and I said, that's a cop-out, because the one thing you do, and to say learn again to your question, I know that Methodists don't talk about politics. I do. And so sometimes I look at Jeff and I expect him to make comments about things that are political. I know traditionally Methodists stay away from that, but I do. And so there will always be that back and forth. I remember Penny telling me, well, he's not going to say much about the politics, but I thought that what the pastor did that Sunday morning was just totally out of line. And so I stepped away from the church. And what I've learned is that I need to speak out more about things that matter in terms of religion and the way we treat people. I also know that I've always felt that women have, and growing up, I think it's because I know it's because I grew up in a household with two mothers. But women have a lot more to offer this society than we as men who've always been in control would admit. And because we don't admit that, we're always pushing back on things they do. I remember with Bill Clinton and the politicians on the other side saying that it was wrong for him to try to make his government look more like, quote, America. But America is what he was governing, which was a representation of all of the people who had come in and who were part of the society. And I also remember listening to Mitch McConnell when Barack got sworn in, when he said, I hope he fails, which is something I will never forget, and I intend to write him about that. But what bothered me about that statement was the unwillingness to recognize that there was an opportunity to give somebody a chance to be whomever they wanted to be. And if you contrast that, or you look forward now to the current president we have, where if Republicans feel he's doing anything wrong, they're not saying it. If they feel he's doing things right, they're not jubilant about it. So there's a disconnect there. If you're passionate about Barack Obama failing, you should be equally passionate about Donald Trump succeeding. So stand up and trumpet everything he says, even the things that others disagree with. So I've learned to stop sitting in the background a lot more and to be a part of the discussion and to add value however I can. And to be an example for people, but to be welcoming to others, because I know I too, as an immigrant, I've been welcome. Ardmore opened his arms to me. Smyrna First, a wonderful church. I remember one of he passed away a couple of years ago, but Bob Adams, who always say, every morning you saw him Sunday morning, I'm on the other side of the tulip, I'm not pushing daisies, was what he would say. But he taught me how to be an usher, and he taught me how to be a part of the prayer group at Smyrna First. So when he passed, it just was devastating, but it was easy for me to reach out to his wife and family and wish them well. So I've truly learned to be a part of things however I can in my own way.
Thank you so much, Nathaniel. I think that's a good lesson for all of us and why we're actually doing this, so we can encourage each other, we can reach for issues of social justice, and be brave enough and courageous enough to stand up and speak out when we feel something is wrong. Please give Diane and Nathaniel a hand. So now we will just take a couple of questions if anyone has any. Does anyone have any questions, clarification questions, anything that they would like to know from Diane and Nathaniel? I'll give you the mic for people who are hard of hearing thing.
I want to ask Dr. Clarke, what happened to becoming a pilot?
So it's still a passion and something I will do. My wife hasn't forgiven me because she did get me flying lessons that I was too busy to follow up on. So I need to follow up with that. I have a passion for flight and for travel, and so I've just been mesmerized. I'm one of those who get on an airplane and I don't need to leave my seat. I just sit there and stare out the window and just watch the clouds, and I am awake the entire trip, whether it's transcontinental or not. Going back to Liberia for the first time, I just stayed awake watching the clouds, taking pictures and stuff like that. So I will follow up on that. Thank you.
Does anyone else have a question or comment?
Nathaniel, I learned a lot from you, and I don't know how you do this feeling, but when somebody hurts you, how do you get rid of that anger toward them? You seem to have mastered that very much better than a lot of people.
So again, that's a tribute to my parents. I think the fact that my mom and her sister, they had this thing where if something went wrong, we could talk about it tomorrow. It was sort of not the don't ever go to bed angry, but a deviation from that to where it's okay. Say whatever you want to say because it matters to you, and I can listen to you and hear you. But I feel, or I've learned that if I were to reciprocate, if I were to say something or try to answer you, things would get way out of control. And so I would listen. And then a couple of days later or so, I would hope we have an opportunity to talk about it and I could try to address it. That's never really a good thing, especially with relationships, because even with my wife, when we have a disagreement and I don't want to talk, a couple of days later, she's like, "Oh, you want to talk about it now?" Now is not the time. But I've learned to appreciate that. So maybe I did something wrong. Maybe I really hurt you, and I need to reflect on why you are in that space you're in. And you could be totally wrong, but I find the time to reflect, and when I do, we can have a conversation. At least I try to engage in a conversation and maybe try to do something different about that. But that's just how I do it. Doesn't serve me to reach out and to be in your face. And that's hurt me sometimes because there are opportunities when you need to speak out then and there. And usually my responses are more not necessarily conciliatory, but they're more subtle and they're so that you have a space to feel free to say what's going on.
Thank you. Do we have more? Oh, okay. Two more. And then.
You said Nathaniel, you said you were going to talk a little bit about your father who moved to northern Liberia, and I would like to hear more about that. But I know that the indigenous people in Liberia do have a story as well. And but I also, my hero that I've heard about is the president of Liberia, Ellen Sirleaf Johnson. And I wondered if you could tell me anything about her. I know that the women were very important in literally laying their lives down to protest the things that happened in recent years in Liberia. And that Ellen Sirleaf Johnson became president after that. She just recently stepped down after, 8 years or so? And so I just wondered if you could give us a little bit of insight into that. Thanks.
So briefly, with my dad moving to where he did, he worked for the mining company, Lamco. And in Liberia, we're rich in iron ore, rubber, again, a coastal country. So we grew up walking to the market every day, getting fresh foods and stuff from the markets. But with him moving away, I've always, because I never initially accepted my stepfather as a father, I always wanted to reach out to my dad, and I remember several rejections that, as a kid, you kind of think about, but he wasn't present until I graduated, and I remember him being in the house. My mom had a celebration for me from high school, and that was one of the few times that I saw him. So he was never really a presence in my life. I have an older brother. My father had quite a few kids, but I have an older brother who lives in Olathe, Kansas. And we had a falling out a couple of years ago because he thought that I needed to honor my father and my mother, and I kept trying to tell him that as much as I respected my dad, my father was my stepdad, whose funeral was, I think, 3 or 4 years ago, Penny. But that was the situation with my dad living in Nimba County. With the politics of Liberia, Paul, I have to say that I'm not a fan of President Johnson. I think she had an incredible opportunity when she came in as female for a country where the women without home, the support you talked about, where they lay down their lapas, their outer garments, and they protested because as much as men in Africa they like to think, that they're the ones who rule everything, especially looking at Zimbabwe, and just praise God for Mugabe stepping aside. I grew up in a time in Africa when we respected people like Nkrumah from Ghana, Haile Selassie in his earlier years. We had President William Tubman. We had Sékou Touré from Sierra Leone. So we had stalwarts in Africa who were men who were trying to lead the country forward. Ellen Johnson came in at a time when America and the world, especially with her experience from the World Bank and with the UN, when they would have done anything to support her and help her lead the country forward. Again, 43,000 square miles, I think we're less than 2 million people. The one thing I say cynically about Africans is that they don't want much to be led. They just want you to care for them and just be upright. And not get into politics too much, but she just behaved no different, I felt, than any of the other presidents, with lining the government with people from her family, giving them choice positions. The corruption never ceased, and those things. And I think you can see where President Obama just ended up realizing that that was not the path forward for Liberia. I don't follow the politics as much anymore. I laugh with my wife because what's the Independence Day? July 24th.
July
So
26th.
exactly. So that's how much I remember. I have just become an American to the point where when they talk about singing, and Liberians, you go to events, they want to sing the national anthem, so I sit down and don't sing. And so they say, why aren't you singing? I say, because I'm American, so I sing that. But that's just me, right? But the reason I do not, honestly, is because I don't think we've done enough in Africa to show that we are a proud people. I think the leaders of Africa have a lot to answer for. And hopefully there will come a time and a generation, maybe not my kids, but there will come a time and generation when they will have to answer for that. It made no sense that Mugabe at 93 would still think that he had something to offer Zimbabwe. It makes no sense whatsoever. Because even here, and Jeff has talked about his dad, how independent he was. And folks, as they get old here, they dread their driver's licenses or their independence taken away from them. You cannot at 93 negotiate the hallway without people leading you through, yet he felt he had something to offer the country. And but that's been true for every African country. Regrettably, South Africa is going through the same thing. After Nelson Mandela, Jacob Zuma has not done anything to hold up the country. The way women are treated, the way AIDS victims are treated in Africa is as though they still believe AIDS is a curse brought on by gays, and they forget the fact that it's blood-borne and those kinds of transmissions. So, and it's not because Africans are not educated people. They're just stuck in that warp where they feel that this is the way we have to behave. So it's perpetuated, throughout. And prayers for Zimbabwe, Maganagwa has an opportunity, but we know his history. Hopefully it will be different his future will be different from his history.
Thank you so much, Nathaniel. And we'll just take one more question from one African to South African.
Thanks, Tsitsi. I think this just illustrates the tremendous sort of value of having these discussions and hearing about people's backgrounds. And Diane and I are so impressed about the diversity in your background, religious diversity, racial diversity. Yes. It's just, I just want to comment, and I don't want to put you on the spot or anything, but I just think you're a wonderful role model for us, and we're just so delighted to have you as a member of our church.
Thank you. So looking at the time, it's 12:30. Again, thank you so much, Diane. Thank you so much, Nathaniel. This has been wonderful.